Professor Hayek, I want to bring you into a debate that is shaking the world's economy right now. The most powerful nation on earth, the United States, has a leader named Donald Trump who has made a series of dramatic economic decisions. I'd like to walk you through them and hear your assessment.
Please do, though I suspect I already know the shape of what you'll describe. Power concentrating in a single hand, justified by national interest?
Remarkably close. Let's start with what he calls tariffs. Trump has placed very heavy taxes, in some cases over 100%, on goods imported from other countries. The argument is this protects American workers, brings manufacturing home, and punishes countries that he believes have treated America unfairly in trade.
This is not a new idea dressed in new clothes. This is mercantilism, 16th century thinking. The notion that a nation grows wealth by keeping foreign goods out and hoarding production inside its borders was thoroughly dismantled by the time Adam Smith published his work in 1776. What this man is doing is using the apparatus of the state to decide, from above, which industries shall survive and which shall not. He is not defending free markets. He is replacing the market's judgment with his own.
His supporters would argue he is defending American workers from unfair competition, particularly from China, where the government subsidizes industries heavily.
And here is where it becomes genuinely interesting, because there is a real problem buried inside a false solution. Yes, when a foreign government subsidizes its industries, it distorts trade. That is true. But the answer to one government's distortion is not your own government's counter-distortion. Two men pulling a rope in opposite directions do not create order. They create a tug-of-war that exhausts everyone and enriches neither. The consumer, the ordinary person buying goods, pays the price of every tariff, always, without exception. That is not protection. That is taxation by another name.
Let me bring you his second major policy, tax cuts. Trump has significantly reduced taxes, particularly for corporations and higher earners. The argument is that money freed from taxation flows back into the economy, creates jobs, drives growth. This sounds closer to your philosophy, does it not?
In principle, yes. I have always believed that resources left in the hands of individuals and private enterprises are allocated more efficiently than resources channeled through government. When the state takes less, people decide more. That is healthy. But a tax cut that is not accompanied by a reduction in government spending is not a tax cut at all. It is a deferred tax. The spending must be paid for eventually, through debt, through inflation, through future taxation. You cannot claim to be liberating the economy while borrowing against its future on an enormous scale.
Which brings me to a tension at the heart of this entire agenda. Trump has also created something called DOGE, a body tasked with dramatically cutting government spending and bureaucracy. On one hand, tariffs, which expand state power over trade. On the other, aggressive spending cuts, which reduce state power domestically. To many observers, these two things contradict each other.
They do not merely contradict each other. They reveal something I described very carefully in my book, a pattern I find far more dangerous than simple incompetence. The politician who shouts loudest about freedom is often the one most willing to use state power, as long as it is his state power. The road to serfdom is not paved only by socialists. It can be paved equally well by nationalists who believe that their vision of economic order justifies overriding the spontaneous decisions of millions of free individuals. Tariffs are central planning. The government is deciding, I will protect this industry. I will punish that trading partner. I will determine what your citizens may and may not buy, and at what price. That is precisely the mechanism I warned against. It does not matter if the man doing it calls himself a champion of freedom.
That is a striking charge. You are essentially saying that a leader who presents himself as the defender of free markets is, in practice, doing the opposite.
I am saying that the rhetoric of freedom and the practice of freedom are frequently strangers to each other in politics. What I look for is not what a leader says about markets. I look at a simple question. Is the domain of individual choice expanding or contracting under his decisions? When a government tells you what you may import, from whom, and at what artificially inflated price, your choices are contracting. The fact that it is done in the name of patriotism rather than socialism does not change the mechanism. It is still a bureaucrat's hand on the scale.
Is there anything in Trump's economic agenda that you would defend without reservation?
Deregulation, if it is real and consistent, is valuable. Reducing the weight of bureaucratic rules that strangle small businesses and new competitors is exactly what a healthy economy needs. Competition is how knowledge is discovered and distributed in a society. Anything that protects incumbents and punishes newcomers is a corruption of that process. If his deregulation achieves genuine openness, not protection for favored industries, then yes, that I would defend. But I would watch carefully whether deregulation means freedom for all or simply freedom for those already powerful enough to write the rules.
And your overall verdict on this economic direction, where does it lead?
I titled my book, The Road to Serfdom, Not the Destination. A road can be left, but the longer you travel it, the harder it becomes to turn back. When governments accustom people to looking upward to Washington, to a leader, to a tariff, to a subsidy, for their economic survival, they create dependency. And dependency, regardless of the ideology that created it, is the soil in which the loss of freedom quietly grows. I wrote that in 1944 about central planning from the left. I would write the same sentence today about economic nationalism from the right. The road looks different. It leads to the same place.